Take it away.
Since I'm on your left
Keep that in
side.
mind. Makes it easy to remember.
Does anyone know what a boost regulator is?
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
Well, this is a very cool thing if you operate off of batteries. One of the issues, potential issues with operating off of batteries is batteries voltage goes down with time as they discharge. And it depends on the radio. Some radios aren't very sensitive, other radios are extremely sensitive, but two things happen when your battery voltage starts to go down. For instance, a lead acid cell will start out at about 12.8 volts when it's fully charged, and when it passes the 50% point, which is the recommended discharge, minimum discharge level, this might be down at around 12 volts, something like that. But you can run a lead acid cell down to 11 volts. I wouldn't recommend it, but that can happen if you have to use it. And lithium batteries also have their own profile. They tend to lose voltage pretty quickly near the end of their curve. But anyway, two things happen to your radio when the voltage goes down. One is your output power goes down, because that voltage is feeding the output stage, and the amount of voltage swing that you can get at the output is related to that voltage. The second thing that happens is, although your output power may not go down, you may get much more distortion than is specified for the radio. Most manufacturers will spec a certain range of voltages, operating voltages for their radios, and the better manufacturers will actually tell you what kind of distortion you'll get at the various voltages. But as the distortion increases, you start to put out harmonics, and that can spread the spectrum with garbage. So this guy started a company called TGE. He's a ham. His call sign is N8XJK. And this has been out for quite a while. It actually took the world by storm several years ago, and this thing's actually been reviewed in the ARRL magazine and gets great reviews on eHam. But anyway, this is called a boost regulator, and what it does is mathematically it takes your battery voltage and makes an AC signal out of it, rectifies it, adds a DC boost signal to the battery voltage, and then provides an increased output. For instance, it can go all the way down, it can probably operate all the way down to about 10 volts. And you can dial in the output voltage that you want. For instance, it will hold your output voltage constant at 14 volts or 14.5 volts for a whole wide range of battery voltages that are varying by almost 4 volts. And you might say, well, that's just an inverter, because that's what inverters do, right? They take a battery voltage and they generate an AC signal, but this is special. First off, it doesn't invert the entire voltage. It adds a small portion of AC signal that's been rectified to the 12 volts. So it's a very, very clean version of an inverted signal. Second, this thing will automatically sense when you transmit and when you receive, and it will shut off in receive mode when you don't need it, and it'll turn on in transmit mode when you do need it. So it's got some very nice engineering features, and TGE is the name of the company that makes it, but it's quite a useful thing to have if you do like Steve does, go up on the top of mountains and operate off of battery voltages. And he's not, of course, Steve is always low power, so he doesn't care if his power drops. But anyway, those who do would want to take this with and then ensure a constant voltage to their radio. And if you do emergency preparation and you intend on operating off of batteries in an emergency, this can also come in handy. So anyway.
What's a doodad like that run?
This is about $200. Yep. Yeah, they're pricey, but it's a very sophisticated device. So.
How many amps?
This one will do 20. He also makes one that does 30 amps.
I think you have one to do 40 as well.
So it's pretty powerful.
Cool.
Thanks.
You'll run your battery down even faster.
That's cool.
Yeah, you get the voltage.
Yeah, I was going to bring something else, but since these guys were featured in QST this month, I just couldn't resist. Back to SDRs, that SDR Play. SDR is one of the featured product reviews in QST this month, and I can't add anything to the review. It's glowing, recommend them highly. The new version of it, first of all, has 3 antenna inputs, has an incredibly stable oscillator. It's much better than some of the spectrum analyzers I was selling for $50,000 at Hewlett Packard 15 years ago. And they've increased the frequency range down to 1 kilohertz. So it gives you a spectrum analyzer that is incredible for about 160 bucks. Recommend it very highly. Again, yes, here I play software-defined radios. Look at QST this month.
Is that also transmit as well as receive?
No, it's receive only. It is receive only. So I always have it plugged in next to my transmitter.
Nice, thank you, Chip.
Real quick, Cameron wanted me to bring my rock mic kit so you recognize this from our presentation, but I was getting sick of carrying separate components around, so I put it all together on one box. Right. So we have antenna, keyer, battery, rock mic, flip a switch and go. You're done.
Very nice.
Okay, anybody else over here? Okay, all right, Dad, you're up.
I got pressured into this.
Dad's like, you should bring him. Like, no, you should do it. This is a great idea.
I have this little toolkit that's put out by a company called iFixit. Some of you people may be aware of that company. They primarily do online repair manuals and sell parts for mainly Apple products and mainly the phones. Anyway, this is one of their little toolkits, and they have all these crazy little special bits, tips at the end for special screws that you can never figure out how to get them out, stuff like cutting lopes and stuff like that. Anyways, this is just one of the kits they have. There's a couple little extra pieces in here that if you like, you could buy a battery, they'll send you the tools to get your phone apart and stuff like that. I'm going to pass this around. It's a piece of tape because there's like some extra things in here in the case of the snapshot. This is one of the smaller ones, but they have tools for everything. So I sound like an advertisement, don't I? But there's some really handy tools in here that some of you guys might really find fun to play with if you like to tinker around with stuff like that. I'm going to pass it this way and let it go around.
How much does that kit cost? That one?
I think it's about $25 to tell you the truth. And I thought I'm sure that if there was enough people got together and said, oh, we'd like to have some of this stuff, we might be able to get some kind of thing, because they run specials all the time.
If you have kids with cell phones, they come in quite handy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. The reason why I know about this is my daughter is the ghostwriter for that company. So,
Oh, very good.
anyways.
All right. Very good.
Nice. Honestly, you want to take it away?
Well, I'm not sure how I'm going to display all this, but
Here, we'll just.
a lot of you know that sometimes I'm remoting in from some other location. And this is a control head for my TS2000. It's actually linked right now to my TS2000 at the house here. Have a speaker, a mic, and a box to talk to the internet. And there's a box similar to this at the radio that plugs in to one to the radio, one to the speaker port, and one to the mic port. And it gives me all the capability of my TS2000. There is a way, I haven't implemented yet, you can have different profiles in here, and by turning the knob on the front at the right time, you can select which profile you want. I get in with my computer, talk to this thing through a web interface, and tell it which remote I want to talk to. I have the same setup in Arkansas as I do in Colorado, so I can choose which one I want to remote to. So that's how I check into the net from Arkansas, or other locations actually. I've checked in remotely from several. Also, you can use Echolink, which is probably simpler. You just have to. I could do Echolink with this, but you know that limits me to one thing where I can actually tune the frequencies here and use my memories that I have stored in the radio and stuff like that. So it gives me a lot more power. Right now, you know, it's receiving two, it's set to receive on two things at the same time, simultaneously, but not take a both of them. And so that's something that you can't do with Echolink. But Echolink definitely has its place, and I've used that as well. The last time I went to Arkansas for a month, I forgot to plug the Ethernet cable back into my box, so I couldn't talk to
Didn't work, did it?
Technology.
Nice job, Arnstead. Larry, do you happen to have something?
Nope.
Oh, that's a cool antenna though. Oh well. Oh, sorry.
Very built.
Oh, Barry.
I don't have anything tonight. I think I can task.
How about you, Steve?
Yeah.
Come on down.
Actually, I've got 3 things.
15 minutes.
You got 15 minutes.
Yeah. Somebody better run a clock to get sidetracked. But, the coolest thing is this weather balloon radio. It's called a radio song. And 10 years ago, the goats and I were walking through the forest, and I saw this thing hanging up in a tree.
Oh.
And what told me to look up at the tree was I saw this latex balloon laying on the ground. It was all torn up and, you know, deteriorated.
Area 51.
Yeah. And 2 weeks ago, I was camping in Lost Creek Wilderness and went for a hike on the same trail, and this thing was laying on the ground. So after 10 years, this is what happens to electronics. Interesting thing about this radio, and you're probably familiar with weather balloons, is this thing is tethered 100 feet down from the weather balloon. It's the battery that's attached to the back of it is a water battery. It works by adding water to it, and it generates heat. And it's non-toxic because the Weather Service drops or releases these things twice a day, and there's 100 weather stations across the U.S. So I'm surprised that the forest isn't just littered with these things. Not only that, but they release them from ships. There's like 800 ships that release weather balloons, and that's how they gather the data. There's a temperature sensor, there's a humidity sensor, there's also barometric pressure, and this swirled circular antenna is a GPS antenna. So it doesn't process the GPS information in the radio itself, but it sends it down to the Earth station, which processes it, and that way they can figure out where this thing is at any given point in time.
Except when it's in a tree.
Right.
They're going to come crashing in here any minute now, dude.
Knock on your door.
It leaves the ground in a helium or hydrogen balloon that's about 10 feet diameter. It goes up about 100,000 feet up before it gets to the size of about 20 feet, and that's when it bursts. And then it still transmits on its way down. Its life is about 2 to 3 hours. So I'll pass it around.
That's pretty cool.
So they don't have a drop in any mailbox thing on them?
Yeah, they do. They do. I was reading about that. They do have a little envelope that's folded up and says, you know, please mail this back to.
You should mail that one in. Lost it.
They cost about $20 a piece because they buy them in bulk, and they're made in Finland of all places.
Cool.
But I just thought it was kind of interesting. I mean, after 10 years, the thing is laying on the ground in front of me. So along that line,
See, couple. Why is the antenna have that kind of
That's-
shape to it?
that's a circular polarized antenna, and GPS signals are circular polarized. So if they bounce off something, Bob, you may know, but the reflection doesn't cause a, they don't get reflections.
Okay.
So we
in the
use our
signal.
fox hunting.
That's pretty neat.
So the other thing I've got, and speaking of fox hunting, is Barry has loaned me up the little Arduino controller for the Fox. As a matter of fact, that Arduino controller is what keys it off and on and sends the Morse code and ID and all that. I thought it'd be fun to do an on-foot fox hunt. And so I'm experimenting right now with using 450 because it's a smaller antenna, easier to hold and that sort of thing. I'm also experimenting with an app that I downloaded. It's a fox hunting app that uses GPS map because that was just trying to know where we were when we were out there Saturday, and then plot that on the map, which was a good exercise in terms of using maps and compass and GPS and all that. Anyway, this app knows where you're at, so all you have to do is give it a bearing and say, I hear the fox at this bearing. So it takes care of all the calculations and triangulation, and you just go find another point where you can get a signal so you can triangulate, and theoretically it should tell you where to go. Anyway, I'm playing with that, trying to figure out how I could set up a on-foot fox hunt, maybe in one of the parks, and keep it short, maybe just one fox or two, one easy one and maybe one harder one or something.
You got an attenuator for that?
No. Last Saturday, though, I discovered, and that was a learning process, that just by cross-polarizing, you can get a lot of attenuation.
Oh, yeah.
But
We still got confused.
There is kind of a sideline and everything else. I think everybody's heard of HRS. But if you get on the website, what I find really kind of interesting is moving objects. There's a little sub-program and everything else, and so you can go down in there. You can watch all the balloons and the ships and everything else, where they're at, what they're doing. And I don't know, I just find it interesting. So it's on this website, but it's not very obvious. You have to kind of look for it.
speaking of that, I was up on a mountain this last week. Weather started moving in, and we had finished operating. And my friend Steve, who was with me, K7PX, to get to that mountaintop, we had to do a lot of bushwhacking and through thick forest. And so on the way down, he's got a radio like mine. It does do APRS, and I get to go on these excursions because I carry this radio so that my wife knows that I'm not sitting in the brew pub somewhere and that, oh yeah, he actually is climbing that. But we were tree bashing trying to get off this mountain, and Steve's bigger than I am. I kind of tend to follow the rabbit trails, and he's taller, and anyway, his radio got stripped off him while he was tree bashing. And I mean, radios aren't cheap, they're $200–300. And I was keyed up on this fox hunting that we did last Saturday. So I said, I know there's a way we can find this radio. And I mean, he was ready. Well, that's the cost of having fun. And just then, his radio beeped a APRS packet. My radio picked it up, and I went into the station list, drilled into that particular his transmitter, if you will, to look at the packet, and sure enough, it pointed uphill, we have a lat long, so we typed the lat long into his telephone, and we said, oh man, that's 300 vertical feet back uphill. And all the time we're talking, we started to head back uphill and just kind of look around. And then another packet happened, and it gave us a bearing, and it was downhill from where we were. We turned around.
Sounds like the Foxman.
Yeah. We turned around, and there it was. The radio was laying right there on the ground, so we beat the weather, and we also got off the mountain with all our gear.
That's always a plus.
Yeah, so that's kind of my story.
Very neat.
It's a FT 1D, yeah. They make a FT2 now that's got a bigger display for us old guys that.
Oh, all you, go for it, Bob.
Big old box.
Here's my toy. I can't hold this very long.
Do you want to hold it for you?
Hold it up, Bob, while I take a picture. Well, it'll be a few minutes before we get it.
It's a lunch pail disguised as a radio.
How do you put that to your ear?
Like this. Hello, is Jim there? Got a belt clip for that? No belt clip. This is, as most of you guys know, I've always been kind of a VHF fan. And the thing I'm working on right now is I want to get VUCC on 2 meters, which means work 100 grids or more on the 2 meter band. And to assist in that, I got a 1 kilowatt 2 meter amplifier.
Oh my God.
It's all solid state. It's supposed to be SWR protected. It's made by Bico, German company. Supposed to be very high quality. I have not turned it on yet.
I'm gonna use that.
Make antennas glow.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to giving it a try. I've started doing like meteor scatter on 2 meters, 6 meters too, but now my goal is really 2 meters. So I moved up to 2 meters on meteor scatter, and that's working. I've got an amp that does like 170 watts, but this will help a ton. And then I'm looking at how big of an antenna I can get to just, if I get a big enough antenna, I can do moon bounce with that as well. So I don't know if I can get a big enough antenna on where I want to put it, but still working on that. And my lovely wife bought this for me for my birthday.
All right.
Wow. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so I see a lot of doodads over there. YBI.
All right. I'm not going to.
You're not going to get up. Okay, that's fair enough.
I'm not even sure I'll be able to stand very long. I got 3 things. First one is this little power meter. Picked it up through HRO for about 20 bucks. And you plug it in to your source, to your load, and it tells you how many amps, watts, a couple other things that you're using. Just simple, little, but it's a great little tool to see what kind of power you're running and what you're doing. The second thing I've got, I've had it for a couple months, is this Terra DMR digital radio. Terra is made by PowerWorks. They're the same ones that do the wash-on radios, and I really, really like it. And one of the reasons I liked it is all of their programming is free online. All you have to do is download it, and they have all the repeaters and call logs up to date for Colorado and other areas too. And the customer service is pretty incredible. You call and they'll walk you through the whole thing and get you all set up. So I've enjoyed it. The other reason I've gone with PowerWorks in the 2 meter or UHF VHF is they are one of the few that are approved for public service UHF, VHF.
I would just tell you why I picked it. It's the Yaesu FT70 DR. And it's because I wanted a dual band, but I wanted to be able to play with digital. And I couldn't spend a lot of money. The hubby is still kind of a little confused. Like, what are we doing? So I couldn't buy like the full thing with the GPS and the APRS and all that stuff. So this comes in at $200, which I think is pretty good because the FT6065 is like $130 or maybe $120 if you get lucky. So it's not too much more, but it lets you play with digital, plus you've got your regular old 2 meter, plus all of you know how to work Yaesu FT whatevers. So I can ask for help, like from Bob. Bob, program it. So the bad thing is it's not supported by chips yet.
Chirp.
Chirp. So programming is still kind of yuck. But that's like so far the only bad thing. I don't know. Did you notice any other bad things when you were messing with it?
No, it seems like a nice radio.
So yeah.
I guess that, you know, one thing, and this is true of a lot of radios, they still are, they have the alphanumeric display, but it's only 6 characters. And you kind of go, you know, that's really not enough. And so they should probably improve that at some point.
So for a newbie, I think it's a pretty good choice.
Congratulations on your radio.
Well, that's a whole lot of antennas over there. Are we done with that table?
I think we are done.
Okay.
Yeah, we're done, yeah.
All right. There's a black box there. Whose is that?
There's a black box.
Looks like a gold radio.
Alright, so I'm a budget ham. I'm new to the hobby. I was looking at Pelican cases. Really can't afford one. But Sam's has these for 35 bucks. He's got 4 snaps. And I am working on building a kind of a camping box in it. Got my FT817, a bunch of stuff. I've got a 12-foot center-loaded vertical that I built. Steve's seen it set up. I got a long wire in there. Got antenna tuners. I've got a Raspberry Pi with FL Digi here for doing digital modes. There is a 9 amp hour Bioenno LiPo battery in there.
Nice.
And 2 antenna tuners, and this is item number 2. This is I forget the name of the company. It's an AAI N1201 SA vector analyzer. It'll do 135 megahertz up to 2.7 gigahertz. How much would you give for that? 150 bucks. I've tested it out against very expensive equipment, and the thing is right on. It's got really nice color display. It'll do either the frequency, or you can put it into graph mode, and it'll do a graph, and you can set how wide the frequency, you know, it's going to scan. So, and since the only thing I'm qualified to build right now is antennas, I'm trying to hack together a box. This gave me the ability to do above 6 meter band, which my other antenna analyzer will do. So,
What did you say the frequency range was?
it goes from just under the 2 meter band up to 2.7 gigahertz.
Okay, so really VHF, UHF.
Yeah, and up to the low end of microwave. Yeah.
Okay.
And my other antenna tuner will go. It's one of those rig experts. You all have seen one, I'm sure. It'll do everything from 160 meters up to 6 meters. So that covers the other part. But I was missing the top end, and I wasn't sure what I was going to get. But it seems to be a quality piece of gear for a very reasonable fee. So. And I was trying to find this because I couldn't afford a Pelican case, but 35 bucks. I can do that. Yeah.
Where'd you say was
Where's
from,
he-
Sam?
Sam's. And they've got them in stock right now.
Where?
And I don't work for them.
In the camping section?
Over in the automotive section.
Oh,
You know, that one aisle where they have some of the automotive stuff?
yeah.
They'll be out of stock tomorrow though, so.
Yeah, there it goes.
It'll be closed by the time you
Yeah,
get there.
so come over and take a look at it and see what you think about the quality. I think for 35 bucks it's steal.
Thanks.
All right, cool, thanks, Steve. Okay, anybody else?
I've got a couple.
Good. I'm gonna,
Okay.
I'm gonna do that too, that needs to be pushed.
So, this is, can you all see this? I'll pass it around. Just recently got into QRP radio, and so one of the things you need to do is test your rig. This is a dummy load. So this is made by a company called QRP Guys. This was probably about 10 bucks. It's a kit, and it took me all of probably 10 minutes to put it together. And the hardest part is where this BNC connector is. It takes a lot of soldering to get that heated up and to take that solder. But great little tool to throw in your antenna kit. Appeals to Steve since it's tiny, but it's a nice little kit. And there's a couple more folks that make things like this. There's a couple other features to it, but this one was nice and simple, such that I could build it. So I'll pass that around. The other thing, I wasn't planning on showing this, but since this is the antenna we used for the fox hunt. And if you haven't used or haven't seen this antenna before, this is one you can readily get on the internet, on eBay or Amazon, I think. I think the guy that makes this is N9TAX. So if you go to his website, n9tax.com, this is how it comes. It's got about 10 feet of cord, and then it is attached somehow. I'm not quite sure. It's actually attached.
Put it together for you real well.
It's stuck together. Oh, there we go. So that's how it looks. Just hang that up. I actually used this on, I did radio support for Aries on the Pikes Peak Ascent. And this was the antenna that I used. Hung it up on a piece of PVC on Devil's Playground, if you've been up there. Not a great place to get reception, so this helped a ton. And I think all in, this was like 25 bucks. So great thing to have in your go bag. It comes.
FM, right?
What's that?
FM.
Dual.
It's dual band.
Dual band.
Yeah. And I know some people have actually used this for their home antenna and slide this into a piece of PVC. There's also an Ed Fong antenna. If you look on the internet, there's Ed Fong puts together some antenna kits. I can't remember what university it belongs to, but the students actually put them together as part of their class, and they sell them for funds from the school. So another good source of antennas. So.
Did you build that yourself, or did you?
No, I purchased this. This was I think this was my first antenna. The first one I made was atrocious. So I figured if I was going to get on the air with anything decent, I was going to need to buy one first.
Dual band UHF.
Dual band UHF VHF. I think it was 25 to 30 bucks, something like that.
$23 and $5 postage.
Yep, something like that.
Yes. And I'm gonna kind of come in and everything else. In the box hunt, I thought everybody and their mama had one of these roll-up antennas in their go bag. That's not the case. There's very few of them that I know of that people have. So when I was doing the fox hunt, I was kind of scrambling trying to find these antennas because the rubber ducks do not work well with the duty cycle that we were using. So I kind of got panicked. I ran down to Millennial, bought some 450 batter line, $5 total for this antenna. However, this is only a 2-meter antenna, so it doesn't have the trap in for the UHF. I don't understand it yet. I'll figure it out at one time, but anyway, these are easy. That's an hour, 45 minutes to an hour build. Very cheap. The ladder line 57 cents a foot, and so it's very, very simple project to do, so you might help your students and everything else, and they want to do something like this, you know, so Larry built one up, I built one up, and so I've given this one away already, so as soon as that one is tested as far as the SWR, that'll be given away as well. So anyway.
So that's a J-pole antenna, right?
It's a folded dipole.
Oh, what's it called?
And it's a J-pole, it's a dual band J-pole. If it's the, I think the UHF portion of it is a J-pole. And this is, there's two antennas in one in this one. So I think the other one's classified as a folded dipole.
It's, yeah, I can't remember the name, what they call it offhand. Of course, if I wasn't asked, I'd know.
Yeah, so it's just, but anyway, they say it's a J-pole, a dual band J-pole.
Yeah, it's really not a true J-pole because of the fact that if you kind of let that one drop out.
This one doesn't have trap?
Yeah, no, it doesn't have traps.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a stub on it that goes up to the first yellow, and that the hot side of the coax goes, no,
it's actually better.
The negative side of the coax goes to the stub.
You see your antenna. It's a better example.
Yeah, that one you can actually see the stub.
Yeah. So it's got a.
You got a notch cut out.
You've got a notch cut out right there.
So you have, that would be basically quarter wave,
That's
2
a quarter
meter.
wave, right? Yeah.
And then the other side, the center lead goes all the way up to the top, wraps around, and comes back down to the other side of that notch.
So
and that's going to be three quarters, I think. It's actually longer than that. And then they've got the two, right where Barry's got his hand, there's two little traps in there for taking you into the 450 band.
Oh. So I haven't figured this out myself, but I don't understand this.
Is it just like some RG9 or something?
It's
or what are they
the
using?
trap.
Yeah, what is that?
Trap is typically, in this case, I think it's a thin RG58, but they use an RG174, and I forget what the length of it is. It's like 1.25 inches. The side coming from the bottom goes straight through, and the top side is shorted.
Okay, we gotta poke into that, see, learn more about it.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, we could even do like a club construction project.
I've got most of the plans for these. And the thing that was interesting is the one that Barry just showed that I made.
I got an antenna.
I made it, tweaked it, tuned it. I laid it against this one. Now granted, it doesn't have the traps in it, and it was almost dead on for every measurement. I was within 1/8 of an inch or less everywhere.
Be a fun Saturday morning project.
Yeah.
But it's, like I said, I thought everybody had one, but that's a very, I carry in my go bag in the truck, I carry a little bean bag, and it's got some paracord on it. Throw it up a tree, haul that up a tree, you can do it just about anywhere. Throw it out the window and hang it off the balcony.
And you said with the rubber duck that the radio was getting really hot, right?
I
And
learned
you put this on, so you weren't getting nearly as much.
I learned so much about
reflected power.
Yeah, the load coil on that will get warm because when we had problems with my Fox, I took one of my other radios that this antenna fit on and powered it up to 5 watts and held it for about a minute and then felt the load coil on there and it was starting to get warm.
Yeah.
Would that happen to be the standard Baofeng rubber duck antenna?
I tried different ones, yeah, that in particular, but
I did not use the standard.
When those are particularly bad, they're pretty low.
I tried a bunch of different antennas at different power levels, and those radios get real hot real quick, antennas get hot real quick. You can run on this antenna all day long and it doesn't even feel like you've had the radio on at all. You know, so it's a big difference, and I learned a lot about garbage antennas.
You mean the dummy loads?
No, oh yeah, those too. Anyway, I didn't mean to step up here, but. And let me get this antenna's no longer mine.
Watts, voltage, and something else. It comes pre-equipped with the Anderson.
You said that was about 20 bucks?
Yeah, under 20, 19.
Nice. A controller, because you have peanut butter.
And I have a solar control. I don't know what band are we on right now. So you can go up and down the bands with these buttons to see what it's all got.
Yeah.
It'll do AM, FM, single sideband, and digital modes.
Any other way to do it?
It's actually a pretty old radio. The FT817 has been around for a while.